Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a real modern-day puzzle, the tiny nation of Qatar. It's a story that, honestly, seems to defy logic.
I mean, it really all boils down to this one simple question. How can a country that's, well, this small, a country you could easily miss on a world map, be this influential? Think about it. They're brokering peace deals between global powers, hosting massive events like the World Cup. It's kind of mind-boggling. So to figure out how they pull this off, we've got to look at the very source of their power. And right here, this is it. This is the heart of the Qatar paradox. On one hand, you've got a country with a land area smaller than the state of Connecticut. But on the other hand, it's sitting on top of the third largest natural gas reserves in the entire world. This is the story of how a tiny nation leverages almost unimaginable wealth to punch way, way above its weight.
So let's start unpacking this puzzle. How exactly does this tiny peninsula project such enormous global power? What's the secret sauce?
All right, let's get grounded with the basics. We are talking about a sliver of land, a peninsula in the Persian Gulf. And get this, the actual native citizen population is only about 333,000 people. To put that in perspective, that's barely enough to fill a few large football stadiums. Now, you have to remember that number because it is absolutely crucial to understanding everything that comes next. You see, Qatar's influence is really built on two key ingredients, what's buried deep under its feet and who its neighbors are. It's a classic story of incredible resources meeting a very, very tricky location. These numbers, wow, they tell such a powerful story. It's not just about having the world's third largest gas reserves. The real game changer is that they're a top exporter of what's called LNG, or liquefied natural gas. Now, why does that matter so much? Because you can put LNG on a giant ship and send it anywhere in the world. You're not tied to a pipeline. So when countries in Europe or Asia start worrying about their energy security, who do they call? They call Qatar. That gives them incredible leverage. That is real, tangible power. And then there's the geography. Talk about a tough neighborhood. Qatar is literally sandwiched between two regional heavyweights that do not get along, Saudi Arabia and Iran. Now, for most countries, that would be a fatal weakness, but Qatar has turned it into a strategic advantage. It has forced them to become masters of diplomacy, talking to everybody and making themselves indispensable to all sides.
So if you're a small, unbelievably rich nation in a dangerous part of the world, what do you do to protect yourself? Well, you make yourself absolutely essential to the world's biggest superpower. Qatar spent over $1 billion of its own money to build the Al Udeid Air Base, which is now the biggest U.S. military base in the entire Middle East. This isn't just defense spending. It's buying an insurance policy, a security guarantee from Washington, D.C.
Now, this unique position has allowed Qatar to carve out a very specific and very powerful niche for itself. It's become the world's essential mediator, the country that steps into messy conflicts that nobody else wants to touch. And make no mistake, this didn't happen by accident. This is official state policy coming right from the very top. The emir himself has stood up at the UN and declared this a core part of their foreign policy. They actively seek out this role. And the results of this strategy are pretty staggering. I mean, look at this list. They're the ones who hosted the talks between the US and the Taliban. They've been the central player trying to mediate between Israel and Hamas. They've even brokered prisoner swaps between bitter enemies like the US and Iran. This isn't just about diplomacy. It is a calculated strategy to become the one country that everyone, no matter how much they dislike each other, simply has to talk to. But hard power and back-channel diplomacy aren't enough in the 21st century. Qatar understood pretty early on that it needed to build a global brand. It needed to build what we call soft power. And if you look at this timeline, you can see just how deliberate this strategy has been. It started way back in 1996 with the launch of Al Jazeera, a news network that completely changed the media landscape in the Arab world. Then they moved into global sports, buying a huge European soccer club, Paris Saint-Germain. And of course, the grand finale, hosting the 2022 FIFA World Cup, putting Qatar on the map for literally billions of people. Each step was a calculated move to build their brand and their influence. And it's not just sports and media. They've also poured billions into creating something called Education City. They've managed to attract branch campuses of elite universities like Georgetown and Weill Cornell Medicine to set up shop right in Doha. The goal here is long-term, to become the intellectual hub for the entire region, attracting the best and brightest, and building a foundation of influence for generations to come. But there's another side to this story. This rapid, almost meteoric rise to global prominence has come at a huge cost, and it's surrounded by deep, persistent controversies that are just impossible to ignore. And this right here is probably the most shocking statistic of all. Remember those 333,000 Qatari citizens? Well, they make up just 11% of the people living in their own country. Let that sink in for a second. The entire nation, the skyscrapers, the stadiums, the airports, it's all built and run by a massive expatriate workforce that makes up nearly 90% of the population. And for years, the conditions for many in that workforce have drawn intense fire from international human rights groups. They've documented widespread issues like wage theft, employers confiscating passports, and really dangerous working conditions, especially in the extreme heat. And all of this for a minimum wage of just $274 a month in one of the most expensive countries in the world. At the center of a lot of this criticism for years was something called the kafala system. Now, while Qatar has introduced reforms, this system has been widely condemned because it legally ties a migrant worker to their employer. This historically gave employers huge control over their workers' lives, including their ability to change jobs or even leave the country. Critics say it created conditions ripe for exploitation, and it remains a huge stain on the country's international reputation.
So what's the takeaway? Qatar's playbook, using its gas wealth and strategic location, has undeniably made it a global force. You just can't argue with the success of the strategy. But as the world slowly tries to move away from fossil fuels, and as new global conflicts keep changing the board, you're left with one final, crucial question. Is this playbook sustainable? How long can it possibly last?